Welcome to the demo video for H2 Workcycle 4 Sprint 3, which is the last sprint for this workcycle. The team has completed quite a few updates during this last sprint, but I'm going to be focusing on 3 significant new features that have been released to production since the last update. And those are SUNET ID lookup for collection participants, ORCID IDs for individual authors and contributors, and automated assignment of DOIs for works. So let's start with the SUNET ID lookup. In the past, collection managers who needed to add other managers, depositors, or reviewers to a collection would type or paste SUNET IDs into the appropriate field. There was no feedback to the user to let them know if they'd entered an incorrect or invalid ID. The team has now updated the form so that each SUNET entry is checked against the Stanford directory. The form displays the name associated with the ID so that the collection manager can verify that the SUNET ID is valid and that it's for the correct person. If there is no match to the SUNET ID, the collection manager knows that they need to double-check their information so that they can enter the proper, valid ID. Now let's look at how the new ORCID feature works. ORCIDs are persistent digital identifiers that individuals own and control and that distinguish each researcher from every other researcher. Depositors are now able to include ORCID IDs for any or all of the individual authors and contributors that they are including on their work. The depositor chooses the ORCID ID option and then types or pastes in the ID. We then retrieve the individual's name from the ORCID record. The depositor is able to edit the name retrieved from the record so that it displays however the user would like on the Perl page. Users can still opt to type in a name if that particular author doesn't have an ORCID or hasn't provided one to the depositor. Lastly, let's check out the new DOI feature, which allows depositors to have DOIs assigned to their works at the time of deposit. Let's first have a look at the collection level settings available to collection managers. Collection managers are able to choose whether works deposited into their collection should always have a DOI assigned, never have a DOI assigned, or if the depositor is allowed to choose for each work whether they would like a DOI assigned or not. This collection is set to let the depositor decide. That setting is displayed on the collection view page. When the collection is set so that the depositor can choose, the depositor will see a yes/no slider in the DOI assignment section of the form. The default position for the slider is yes, indicating the deposit will receive a DOI. Moving the slider to no means the deposit will not receive a DOI at this time. However, as long as the collection setting remains the same, the user can version this object later and choose to get a DOI at that time. Once assigned, a DOI can't be revoked. When a user versions an object and updates the metadata, those updates are also made in the DOI metadata. If the collection is set to always get a DOI or never get a DOI, the depositor will see a static message here indicating that they either will or will not be assigned a DOI for the work, whichever is appropriate. When a DOI is assigned, the user sees it displayed on the view page for the item just below the Perl, as well as on the Perl page. Thanks for following along with us during these H2 work cycles, and thanks again to everyone who contributed to the development of H2.